Lads.
Welcome to the channel. Hope you're doing well. We are looking at a subject which, for me as a Sheffield United fan, not a particularly easy one to go over. For what the players did in 2019-2020 season, 54 points, a 9th place finish. They really did deserve the chance to go again. So, as we look at why Sheffield United went down, we do have to start with wholesale changes at the beginning of the season. It would have been the wrong approach and largely unfair. If the club had finished bottom after wholesale changes, it would have been very easy to point the finger at that as a reason for relegation. So we begin by looking at that as one of the main points. And I think we'd all back Chris Wilder in that early decision of not getting rid of the players that got us to that 9th place finish. Chris Wilder himself isn't sentimental. He has cut players from the side or sold them in the past. He's done that throughout his managerial career if he felt it was right for the team. And, you know, we can argue about if axing Duffy was a power play another time. But transfers overall, Chris Wilder bought players largely for the future, not all of them for now. And that's an interesting policy when you consider the strength of the youth team at Sheffield United. A number of good young players coming through the ranks, arguably the best crop for many years. So with those transfers, the likes of Max Lowe, Jayden Bogle, a good challenger for Baldock, that transfer made sense. Ollie Burke in a swap for Callum Robinson, and I think you could look back on that one and maybe argue that West Brom got the better end of that deal. Both wingers, and Sheffield United under Chris Wilder don't play wingers. Aaron Ramsdale, a really good signing after a rocky few months in his start. Ethan Ampadu on loan. And after the season started, striker Ryan Brewster was brought in. More on him later. So was Wilder afraid to blood the youth already at the club? He kept David Brooks in the Championship after initially agreeing a loan move away. That proved to be a masterstroke. He clearly saw that Brooks was ready. He brought on, in the season just gone, 17-year-old Antoine Hackford away at Crystal Palace, although some have argued that that was to prove a point to his critics within the club that said he didn't trust youth. I think whenever you buy British, you know you're going to pay more. And that's worked both ways. We mentioned David Brooks. He was sold for a fairly large, particularly Sheffield United terms, fee. You'd argue now he's worth a great deal more. But Leeds, Brentford and West Ham, even Brighton to some extent, have demonstrated how good the transfer market can be when you shop around overseas. So I think one of the big questions we have to look at into why Sheffield United went down was Chris Wilder too stubborn? Or did he just prefer players he could instantly communicate with, being, as he is, such a great motivator, speaker and genuinely likeable person? Chris Wilder resigned, we now know, for the second time, and local journalists published a list of players allegedly offered to Wilder that the Blades never signed. They included Trossard, now at Brighton, of course Souček, very good player at West Ham, Victor Osimhen, now at Napoli, Jonathan David, now at Lille, Timothy Castagna, now at Leicester. There was others in there, Moses Caicedo, now at Brighton. Whether they would have signed for Sheffield United is another matter, but I think we can agree quality throughout those names, if they really were offered. We just have to go on what we read. Michael Verrips, Lys Mousset, Sander Berge, Ismail Koulibaly, all players allegedly discovered by Jan van Winkel, the Belgium advisor to owner Prince Abdullah, and allegedly as well offered to Sheffield United. So by him, we don't know if that's actually the case, but how much, if it was, did Wilder know about these transfers beforehand? Well, from playing time, we could probably deduce that 2 of them he was in agreement with. The 2 not really known by every supporter, goalkeeper Michael Verrips, who has now proven himself at FC Emmen in his native Holland, receiving rave reviews after many United fans expected to see him play in cup games. But aside from a very brief appearance against AFC Fylde, I mean, that didn't really happen. He got concussed after a few minutes. Also, Koulibaly signed from Norwegian side Sarpsborg 08, a Malian under-20 international. I'm sure he'll play for the full side. He can play defensive or attacking midfield. He's 6 foot tall. He was immediately sent on loan to one of United World's clubs, Beerschot in Belgium, one of the affiliate sides for Sheffield United. He's had a great season and attracted attention from some of Europe's biggest clubs. From transfers, let's now look at pre-season as one of the key factors. A waterlogged Scotland, fair to say an absolute disaster, but I would argue not the club's fault. They couldn't travel to sunnier climes, as has been done in previous seasons, of course, due to the coronavirus. No fans at the stadium. And people will say, that's the same for everyone. I would say it's not the same for everyone. Aston Villa fans, for example, turn quite quickly. West Ham fans, they've been protesting the board. It's a distraction. Blades fans make a positive difference. And when you are winning games by the finest of fine margins, like Sheffield United had done in that first season in the Premier League, you need every lift, everything in your favour, and every bit of support you can get. Wilder, as we know, since it first started working, a 3-5-2. That's what he favours. No plan B. Teams, I think, figured it out. The overlapping centre-back didn't work anymore because of the biggest loss and one of the main reasons for Sheffield United's poor season, Jack O'Connell. No question. When it became clear Sheffield United didn't have nor didn't sign a replacement, perhaps the Blades should have changed formation or at least experimented with a different formation, perhaps in a latter stage of certain games. 17 games is enough to say, okay, 3-5-2 isn't working. I think ultimately that steadfast refusal to change the system cost Sheffield United a place in the Premier League and Chris Wilder his job. I think he felt for a number of reasons that he wasn't being listened to as much either by the board or the players. He actually said he thought they needed a new voice. Set pieces, awful. Both scoring from them and defending them. Of course, there was that one magical moment at Old Trafford with Keane Bryan, but too few and far between. Injuries, the first real set of long-term key players injured that Wilder has had to contend with. In the Championship, he demonstrated on the eve of the 4-2 win at Hillsborough that he could adapt and he could change things in the face of injuries. Not so in the 2021 season. Also, winning is a habit. Unfortunately, so is losing. It was those early games where key moments could have changed the trajectory of the entire season. I'm not going to go through each game and highlight errors or mistakes in detail, as on this channel we've covered every match this season already. But a few that I will just throw out there: that red card for John Egan at Villa, that penalty miss by John Lundstram in the same game, I say miss by Lundstram against Leeds. You could argue great save, of course, because it was. That non-red card for David Luiz at Arsenal. These things all added up. Not settling on a front two all season, this can't be understated. I think it was enormous. Look at how an unfancied Leicester City excelled, not just in their Premier League title-winning season, but the past few seasons. A settled front two, a strike partnership, it's key. Also, talking up your number one target when you are trying to get another strike partner so other teams can raise the price, a la Ryan Brewster, I think it's an expensive way to do things. One major reason the club couldn't beat the drop was no creativity. That quality player in the middle who could unlock a defence, a Jesse Lingard type who apparently Sheffield United were rumoured to be very close to signing at one point. 20 goals scored, it tells its own story. And it was something we knew about. We didn't see many goals from Sheffield United in the previous campaign. But in that previous campaign, the defence was solid. The defence was tight. That wasn't the case. A real raft of injuries, I think, at the back being one of the main factors there. Sheffield United have Luke Freeman as the type of creative player, though, that I think fans were probably crying out for. If he's not good enough, why sign him? And if you are in the management team at Sheffield United, you've seen him close up, and now you don't rate him, sell him. Or keep him, but don't loan him when you lack in that exact area. He might have been able to do a job on occasion. No chance of that if he's on loan elsewhere. Again, he was expensive because he's British. Scouting nous, so lacking and so evident. If West Brom can sign a Pereira, so can the Blades. These players are out there, but you have to look further than the Championship and League One. Now, another one that I think could be argued, and it's probably for another video, but should John Lundstrom's decision to not sign a new lucrative deal have been an early warning sign? Did he see the writing on the wall, or did he just believe he could get more money elsewhere? Only he will know, and I'm sure we've all got our own thoughts on that one. Finally, we heard it a lot before a ball was kicked. Second season syndrome. I personally never believed it, but maybe it is really a thing. Look out, Leeds United.